If you've made it up to this stage, congratulations to you because you're about going into making RESTful API. Now, a terminal is opened and a folder is created. You can open up this folder on your VS Code. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to get our app initiated. So we're going to start with that, writing npm init. So this will get all stuff, and a prompt will come up and ask us some questions. So we're asked to press C at any time to quit the program. So use npm install packages to install a package and dependencies, right? So you can see some of the stuff. So it's asking us, what's the package name? So the package name for this is going to be CRUD API. You can give it any name you like, but just for consistency, you can actually give it the same name with what I have here. So CRUD API, and the package name must not contain capital letter. So I think that is a mistake from me. So CRUD-API. So you can use that. So we have CRUD API. The word version, we can leave it with the same version. The description, you can give us some description here. You can just see in the CRUD API. Now, in real sense, you're going to write some kind of a description here about your program, but just for the sake of learning, I'm just going to leave that. And the entry point is, what file do you want to make the entry point? Are you going to make index.js? We're going to be creating our own file that will make an entry point, which is we're going to call app.js. And the test command, for now, we don't need that. And the Git repository, which I will be linking later, we can do that later. We can just keep that. So you hit the enter on your keyboard, and keywords, you don't really have any keywords, so hit the enter on your keyboard. The author, what's your name? So I think my name is Sylvester. I'm not thinking it, so I know that my name is Sylvester. So author, the license, and if they want to add anything more, just yes, 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 and boom. So you can also do this by using the Y command. We start for yes, and it's just going to create the defaults for you. So we are going through, we just want to pass through the right stage. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to install Express. So we're going to say npm install Express. So why do we actually need Express? We need Express to be able to write our backend API. So that is why we need Express. So it's installing Express. So we're going to be installing the package one after the other, and I'm going to be telling you what each of this package actually stands for. While it's installing, you can see that after creating the init program, we had two files. One is package.json. Now this package.json, yeah, this package.json has the name of everything we created, which was CRUD API. That's the name and the description. This was our starting point, which is the main, and the script, and so on and so forth. It's just going to generate this for us. And here we go. We have the auto and that. Now, from this region where you are having the dependencies is actually what you're going to be installing. Now, the first thing that I installed here is Express. So Express was actually installed here. So as a result of that, we have Express installed, and now it shows. So if I installed any other stuff here, it's just going to show up here. So let me install something else. Now we're going to be needing Mongoose in the nearest future, but just for the sake of understanding, I'm just going to install Mongoose now. So I will explain that what we actually need Mongoose for. npm install, then the name of the package, Mongoose. Now let's hit the enter and just watch this. Watch from here. When it's done installing, it's just going to create that dependency and add Mongoose to it. So whatever package that you installed, this is where you find it. You find it in the dependencies. As you can see, Mongoose just appeared, just like that. Okay, now what's the next thing we will do? For now, we have the package.log I would advise you do not come close to this and do not make any change here for now. And here we have the node module. The node module is just like a tank where all the things installed is going to be. So that mongoose that was installed, where is it going to? It's coming in here. So the mongoose is definitely going to be found here. And if I look for it, I think mongoose, I will find, something very similar to that. So you will find all the packages that are installed in here. This is mongoose. So you find all the packages installed in this. So you'll be wondering, why do we have all this? These are some of the packages that were actually installed while we were running npm init. We're starting to initiate and get started. So the first thing that we're going to do, as you can see, we never created any of these files. I think we have 3 files now that we never created. No, now let's create our first file. And the first file we are creating is the name of this file we call app.js, which we said is going to be the entry point. And this file is what we're going to be creating. So we're just going to create this file at the base of this. So here we go. We hit this and we say it is app.js. So that's the extension, and boom, we're good to go. Now, Express has been installed. So how do we get it started? How do we set up our server? So that's the first thing that we want to carry out. So to set up our server, we're just going to go this route and do. So we're just going to go this route and do, we're going to require it. So we'll say Express, right? So let's give it a variable, let's say const, and save it in a variable. And that variable, we're going to call it Express. And we'll say require Express. So what we're requiring is called Express. So that's it, we're good to go. Express has been required. The next thing for us is to fire up Express. So we're going to save that in a variable called app, const app. So to fire up the Express means that you want to get the Express started. So app, so we are calling the function. So we said equal to Express. Then we call the function of the Express. This gets it started. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to set up the server, which is going to be below. So to set up the server, what do? We pick up that app that we just created, the variable. We say app.listen. There's a method. So when you see this box, as you already know that it means a method. So app.listen. So the app.listen actually makes us to be able to create a certain stuff in a particular port. So at what port are we listening to? So let's assume we're going to be creating it as a variable. So let's make a variable, which we are here to create. So the port, or let me just hard code it, the port number. So the port number I want to create is going to be 4000, right? And it's going to take an anonymous function. And in here, I can just console.log that app is running. I can use app is running. At port 4000. So this is just hard coded, as I said before now. So we can always make it flexible. That will be later. Okay, now we have the const here created. And what's the first thing that we want to do? We want to make sure that we are able to create our first request. So we want to create a request. So how do we create a request? Now a server is set now, right? So we can run this and see it. Now Express is already set. So we want to run the request. You'll be wondering, why am I not running this request beneath here? No, you can't run the request beneath here. The server should always be the last one running. So everything you're writing will be between the server, right? So we want to set up a request. So the first request we want to get is called the app, is called the get request. Now, in case you're new to this, what are the requests that we have? We have what is called get request, which we're going to be explaining, the post request, the put request for now, or we also have the patch request, and we have the delete request, just to measure a few, right? So what does each of them do? The first one, which is called a get request, just as the name implies, anytime you're trying to get data, you're trying to visualize the data, you're trying to see what you have on your database, you're trying to see what you have on a particular server, or you're trying to see what is available for you, you're going to be using the app.get. Then app.post will be explained later. So let's take that first. First, we want to see a page. That means we're going to be using app.get. So what are we getting? Now pay attention. The first one is going to take the route. The route means that when we go to our client, which is our web browser, what do we type in? Do we type in, because we've already set up this to be at 4,000, it's just going to say localhost 4,000. So if we are putting a slash here, it means just go to the home page. That's what it means. And the second one is to take up the next, to take up the function, the anonymous function. So you can create this function in a normal way, but I always choose the anonymous function. So the next thing is to put in your request. So it takes two parameter, request and response. Now, whatever way you put it, request and response works. So if you like, you put it as rice and beans, doesn't matter. The name does not really matter, but what matters is that the first is a request, the first parameter is a request, while the second one is a response. So whatever name you place here does not matter. So you should remember that this is for request and this is for what? Response. So the first thing that we want to do is just to respond to something. What's that response? So we're going to say rex, this is how we pick it, dot. Now, once you want to respond, you say rex, dot, then it has a method called send. Excuse me, I think I have a typo. So we have, sorry, let me do that, correct that, request and response. So at this point in time, we're going to do res.send. So what are we sending? We are sending some data to the front end. So let's just say this is home page. So that's what we're sending to the front end. So what have we done so far? The first thing is that we required Express. Express is the bedrock. Now, Express has been fired here, called Express, and we save it in app.js. And the next thing we do is to set up a server. How do you set up a server? You say app.listing, then the ports and the anonymous function, you can definitely console out something. And the next thing was to create the first request, which we just did, app.get. And the first parameter that it takes is the route, right? And the second parameter happens to be this, anonymous function, which take the parameter of request and response. And I made you to understand that when you want to send anything to the front end, or you want to see, visualize anything, or you want to get anything as a name, you use the / the get method, right? So we are sending out something. To send out something, use response. To get something, you use request. And that is why we are using the response.send, right? So in our next class, we're going to visualize this and see what this is producing in our browser.